The following is a live production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Fire up the grills and turn up the volume. Welcome to Warchant Game Day, presented by Zaxby's of Tallahassee.
He is off, one man to beat, cuts it back. He landed on somebody. They're going to say touchdown.
Warchant.com's Jeff Cameron and Tom Lang bring you the latest news, updates, and analysis around the FSU program ahead of today's kickoff on Bobby Bowden Field.
I know what this game means. And if you don't get up for this one, then go somewhere else. Go do something else, because it is not for you. This is why you play.
Tallahassee Game Day is brought to you by Zaxby's, the official chicken of sports fans. Your Tallahassee Zaxby's, a proud Golden Chief booster for 17 years. Go Noles! Now live and worldwide on Warchant TV, here is Warchant Game Day.
Welcome into Warchant Game Day, brought to you by Zaxby's, live from Hotel Indigo, and it's the start of another Florida State football season. Great to be with you. I'm Jeff Cameron alongside Tom Lang and a host of others atop Hotel Indigo as we are all set for football. I know the long wait has been at times interminable, but it is finally here. Florida State Duquesne today at 5. So we'll give you the lowdown here as we are at Hotel Indigo, as I noted. You can come upstairs, 7th floor, and join us and have fun here. The atmosphere will be great as we continue to build towards game time. There's food, there are drinks. There is an incredible view behind me. If you're watching right now on Warchant TV, welcome in. Thanks for doing so. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Good, sir. You ready for another football season? Good to be with you again.
Good to be with you. It was 13 short years ago that we were on the green for an AM dial station, and here we are again. First time atop Hotel Indigo. How much this town has changed in that time.
Yeah.
A lot of Noles here who have not been around and sometimes said that today. Wow, unbelievable.
The transformation of Florida State, Collegetown, this whole area, and really the university as a whole, it's unrecognizable from when I was in school all those many years ago now. And admittedly, it's awesome. And this is a posh setup for us, huh?
It is.
To be atop the Hotel Indigo. And we want to thank our friends at Zaxby's, of course, for sponsoring really almost everything we do, quite frankly. And that's a wonderful luxury to have, as the support is greatly appreciated both by the people here and, of course, all of our corporate sponsors. So good times. Florida State looks to get off to a better start than they have in a number of openers. I hate to go ahead and take you down memory lane. It hasn't been pretty. I think today will. I think today will change a trend. Obviously, that trend goes back to, can you name the score the last time Florida State won its home opener here?
It's home opener, 59-3.
59-16. Good guess. That was against in 2016 against Texas State. How many remember that?
Oh, yeah.
It's been a bunch of losses since. Obviously,
Bobcats.
we ended up playing Alabama, losing 24-7 the following year. Thus began the decline. 2018 lost 24-3 to Virginia Tech. 2019 36-31 to Boise State in a game in which Florida State had a huge lead and oddly enough got tired in the heat, but Boise didn't. Then it was 2020 Georgia Tech 16-13. Last year in overtime 41-38 to Notre Dame. Fun game to be at. Unfortunately didn't go the Noles way. Today figures to go the Noles way against Duquesne. If it doesn't, we should maybe never come to another game.
if today doesn't, that's right.
Against Duquesne,
If today doesn't, that will be the most salty post-game show and in-game show on Warchant TV you've ever seen. But
despondent with the state. It's not going to happen, buddy. Not going to happen.
That Ole Miss game was forever ago. You're talking about openers that ended with a smile on your face.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And even then, the first half didn't go very well. So, yes, it's nice to get on the right track. Hopefully everything goes on schedule today according to plan. You're looking for everybody to stay healthy. You're looking for a clean football game, one in which you see a lot of the freshmen backups in play in the second half. And then it's all about getting ready to go down Bourbon Street and make it happen against LSU. So that's what today is about.
Florida State doesn't often play games in August, but they have, obviously, in their history. And the Noles are 11-1 all-time in the month of August. Just so you know, that is a robust 917 win percentage. So Florida State has been very successful when playing in August. And all-time, obviously, been very successful in their season openers at home. Stretch of home openers, obviously, dating back a long time now. But I figure they'll add to the ledger today. Really what this is about is Florida State, not Duquesne. No disrespect to our friends coming in from Pittsburgh. But the truth is Florida State's a team that has rebuilt the roster. They've invested financially as well in the product. Great article on Warchant.com. If you haven't read it yet, Ira Schafel documenting the amount of money put in by this university. Mike Alford has been very open and honest with his dialogue amongst boosters, alumni, fans of any kind, saying we understand how important it is for football to be great. The president and I are aligned in our efforts to get Florida State back to where they belong. They believe it is the economic engine, obviously, that helps fuel the university, and they're not wrong, in my opinion. Florida State needs to find a way in an ever-changing climate to put themselves front and center before the college football world, which is changing on a daily basis. Obviously, ESPN, Fox, and others have their investments in a couple of other conferences not named the ACC. You want to be in the best possible position to perhaps garner a look.
Yeah, that's the thing. All offseason, it's about the future and where is Florida State going and where is the revenue going to come from? And is it going to be close enough to our rivals, especially regional rivals, that we can stay in the conversation as a power program? The thing about that conversation is it's critical to the future of the university for the next decade plus. But the thing I'm happy about today is now we talk about the now. We talk about today. We talk about 12 games in front of us.
Yeah.
How many can you win to flip the hearts and minds of high school kids across the country, high-profile transfers across the country, to make this thing happen quicker? Get to a place on the football field that makes your product more attractive.
You're also, quite frankly, trying to impress a lot of boosters that have reservations about how much they should give at this time. Is this the guy?
Yep.
Long term, is Mike Norvell going to be the head football coach? We all want that to be the case. We'd like Mike to succeed. Who doesn't? But this is a zero-sum situation. It's pretty easy to figure out what the deal is. You either win or you don't. And if you don't, obviously, then fans will demand a change and clamor for a change. We're not there right now. We're at a place right now where he's got an opportunity to cement his place here, where Florida State fans will, in fact, part with their money, support the program, sell this place out again, and get it back to kicking the way it once did, with Florida State being one of the preeminent programs in all of college football. And today, obviously, a small step if you beat Duquesne. But it is, again, an opportunity to look at a roster that we saw. We went to all of the practices. We saw this team throughout camp. We went to both spring and fall practices. And Mike Norvell is very good and open about doing that, allowing the media, the assembled media, to come to all these practices and write about his program. I think it speaks to the confidence he has in his methodologies, in his system, and the vision that he's created for these players and his program and these coaches. And he wants us to document it. He wants us to talk about the climb, as it's called here in Tallahassee, and as he talks about it with his players. He wants everybody to see what they're doing. He's very transparent because he believes in it. I, for one, find that refreshing. Very few coaches, even if they do have a plan and do believe in it, want you to be around to document it. He's the opposite of that.
Yeah, I want to thank Austin first. All the people in the chat, thank you for interacting. Send us your questions. We'll get to them as we can. It's a very busy show today. We've got Irish Rafael coming up in just a few moments. But Austin, first contribution of the year on the pregame show. He just says, do what is expected of you and don't get hurt. I agree. Thank you, Austin.
Yeah, it's a business trip, if you will, less than a trip. It's backyard. But yeah, you got to go out and focus, take care of business, and move forward.
To the point about Mike Norvell, referenced this yesterday on the wildly popular Jeff Cameron show, which you can find here on Warchant TV, weekdays at 1 o'clock. When we were up in Charlotte for ACC kickoff, covering it for Warchant.com, there was a time they set aside for the local media to speak with Mike, and it wasn't formal. He sat down in a chair like everybody's doing right now at Hotel Indigo, and he spoke honestly and shot from the hip. And the one thing he talked about was, if you want to build something to last, it's going to take some time. If we try to cut corners with how, he didn't say this, with how broken it was, if you wanted to cut corners, then it wasn't going to be built to last. And maybe you could have gotten to 8 or 9 wins quicker, but the culture wouldn't have been flipped. Now the question is that the culture has been flipped and the cancers are out of the program. What can you do with it? Can you win enough games to get an extension and so your rivals can't recruit against you and say, he's a short timer? Don't go to Tallahassee. They're going to replace their coach again. You want to be able to answer those questions on the field this year.
He's a guy, too, that has not only, I think, repeatedly echoed what you just said to anybody who will listen about establishing a culture, but also his team he is very confident in. He's a guy that has talked about he thinks they're ready to take that step because they didn't cut corners, like you mentioned. And he's talked about how proud he is of these guys, the ones who stayed behind and worked hard in the face of all of that adversity. Also, how proud he is of the guys that said yes and believed and took a leap of faith and came here to play for him. Now, he's able to point to their successes, especially in the transfer portal. Yep. And there will be a lot of guys out there today that they brought in from the transfer portal to add to those high school core players. And it's a group that has helped Florida State immeasurably. We know that the record hasn't been what it should be, but we also know if Jermaine Johnson and Kier Thomas and players like that hadn't said yes to Mike Norvell, things could have been even worse. So by being able to point to players who took the leap of faith, that I mentioned, he is able to sell this program year in and year out, not just to high school kids, but also the others that can come in and have an immediate impact today. We expect to see a good bit of the starting lineup be players that transferred in.
I look forward to having the formal and informal conversation almost on a player-by-player basis today. That's one thing we can do. But their hit rate on their evaluations has been really high, and it has to be. When you're not going to bring home 4- and 5-star players left and right just because you're winning 10 games a year and the iconic brand, as Mike Norvell points to.
It's not recruiting itself yet.
Right. So then you've got to be very judicious when you go to the transfer portal, and with the kids that you recruit from high school, you got to hit on them. And what we've seen in spring camp from the early enrollees and fall camp from all the kids that have arrived now, these players, either from the transfer portal or the high school ranks, look like they're tracking well. Yeah. I don't see many busts out there. Now, the question is, how many of these kids will have that translate onto the field? The transfers will sooner than the high school kids, but you might see some of both today. That's the goal.
I think you should see much of this roster. Remember, some years back, they changed the rules in college football where you don't have to fret as much about how much game time a freshman gets, a true freshman gets. If you're worried about losing that eligibility and you'd like to redshirt them, you can play in 4 games and play away. I mean, and this would be a game that I would think a lot of guys should have an opportunity to take the field today if, in fact, Florida State does take care of business. They did come out with the projected depth chart versus Duquesne, and for people out of town who perhaps didn't see it, we should probably gloss over that. As you mentioned at 2:20, Ira Chaffel from Warchant.com will, in fact, join us and get his thoughts on camp and what he expects to see this season. But in the interim, let's really quickly go through this starting lineup. Obviously, Jordan Travis, your starting quarterback. A lot of pressure on Jordan Travis coming into this season. Mike tabbed him as his guy. There were questions going into spring. Would you think about bringing somebody else in just in case, as Jordan Travis has unfortunately had a bit of an injury trouble. Now, he is an elite runner and a unique talent. He's got to improve as a passer. That's what we hope to see this year. But did you think, well, maybe you should bring somebody else in that's had success throwing the football in case Jordan Travis goes down, or somebody else who could run the same sort of offense that he could if he wanted to? He said no. He said, no, Jordan's my guy. I feel good about it. I feel good about the development of Tate Rodemaker. Obviously, they recruited A.J. Duffy. They like that he's on track now, a ways away from starting or anything like that, but they like the way he's tracking as well. That's a bet. That's a gamble. That's pushing your chips in and saying Jordan's my man. Now, what that does for Jordan Travis, obviously, is allow for an entire camp, 2 camps, frankly, in which he doesn't have to look over his shoulder. Last year at this time, he was a guy that was constantly looking over his shoulder, as obviously Milton was going to be a player that a lot of Florida State fans wanted to see play. And so it was probably a situation where he felt that he was not as invested in, and that the coaching staff did not have as much confidence in him as he would have liked. And, of course, if you're Jordan, you've been doubted everywhere you've been. So that had to hurt, right? Yeah, and I think it showed in the way that he practiced and the way that he prepared. This has been an entirely different camp for him, knowing that he had to be the leader as the one tapped to ultimately be the guy.
Yeah, what was interesting is last year he said at the ACC kickoff that he was close to quitting the game because of the experience he had at Louisville, because of the experience he had initially at Florida State. But it was Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham at the time that convinced him to keep going. And now a year later, he was in the same seat in the same room 1 year apart at ACC kickoff. The first time, Mackenzie Milton was across the hallway. Want to guess which scrum was bigger of media members at that table? It's Mackenzie's. This year, it was all around Jordan. And you can see it in the body language. He knows it's his team, the way he carries himself, drill to drill in practice. He's not the most outgoing leader. He's more of a I'll show you by example type. And yet he's gone that extra mile more than once we've seen in camp, where he'll pull players aside, communicate with them. So he's taken the mantle. We'll just see if the Saturday performance can match that to a point where maybe some national talking heads take notice of who Jordan Travis is.
Great moment for Jordan in camp that I witnessed 5 feet in front of me. Micah Pittman was having a rough day at practice, and it's pretty rare that Micah Pittman, the new receiver from Oregon that transferred in, had a rough day at practice. He's usually very consistent. On this particular day, he was dropping several passes, and he was very mad at himself after I think it was his 3rd drop, and he came over and he slammed his helmet down. He was just disgusted with himself because he's a perfectionist. We've learned that pretty quickly. And he uttered some profanities I can't say here. And Jordan Travis saw it out of the corner of his eye. He was on the field getting ready for his next rep. He ran off the field to go over to him and pick up Micah Pittman and say, you got to forget about it. We need you. Get back in line. Let's go. Yeah. And I just thought that was a good example of how far he'd come in the way of leadership. Because you're right, he's not real vocal. But when he saw opportunities to lead in that way, he did so. At running back, Trayshawn Ward, we all saw him a year ago. I think most people very excited about some of the other guys like Lawrence Taylor-Philly, like Rodney Hill, but Trey Benson really has been the name that has created the most amount of buzz. He's also a transfer from Oregon and a guy that, frankly, has the requisite size and speed to have a huge impact on this backfield. Guys, Trey Benson was a star in camp to the point where I'm kind of giddy to see what he can do when he plays. He looks like an NFL running back. And so the question mark with him, why he was available, had a devastating knee injury. A lot of people never thought he could get back to full strength, what he was coming out of high school. He's running better times than he's ever run before, and he said he's ready to go.
Yeah, my favorite thing about Trey was when he came to Florida State, they do a newcomers interview series, and he said, I can't wait to hit somebody. Okay.
Yeah.
A running back who says he can't wait to hit somebody.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear.
With that 0 to 60 speed that he's flashed in spring and fall camp, all right, well, when he hits somebody, they're likely going to go over. They're going to fall over. I look forward to seeing that this year. And the 0 to 60 that we're talking about, can't wait for folks. Hopefully you see it today. Hopefully you see it in a few hours.
Yeah, so that's a running back room everybody feels, I think, very good about. Now, at wide receiver, this was a receiving core a year ago that did not play well at all. That's putting it mildly. This was not a very talented group, so they sought to upgrade, raise the floor there. They did, also in the transfer room, transfer portal. And there's a few guys we can talk about. And I want to leave some wiggle room for Ira here as well. But I'll tell you right now, most of us were wowed by the camp, the fall camp that Johnny Wilson had. A lot better than the spring camp. He became more consistent. He's a 6'7" guy that is going to be able to do a lot of things, I think, in terms of just being able to position his body and make plays in the middle of the field, but also perhaps some shot plays.
Well, and like you guaranteed, he's going to be better than Calvin Benjamin, right?
Oh, no, I did not guarantee that.
You did.
There's somebody you'll be working with later this
That's
afternoon who guaranteed that, and I'll let you guys sort that out, although I did talk to Dominic Robinson about that. Offensive line's a lot deeper. I think we should go there and just talk about how this is a group that has lacked depth. Frankly, they didn't have a lot of frontline talent, but the 5 starters they had, if those guys got injured a year ago, you really were taking a huge step back. And Florida State was kind of hamstrung going into a lot of games last season because the offensive line, like it was the year before, was not where it needed to be.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you this is an elite group up front. I'm telling you they're at least league average with real depth. And that is the news of camp to me. That's been the news of the offseason.
Yeah, I fully agree. In the interior especially. That's where they got depth. Multiple players. I mean, in fact, you've lost Caden Lyles for the season. That's unfortunate. Maurice Smith is not on the 2 deep. What can you infer from that?
He's not playing today for sure. Yeah,
you're right. So you've lost 2 centers in the span of about 2 weeks' time in practice, which is just, I mean, are you kidding me? Hands to the sky. Last year, that might have been season over. Right then, right there. This year, not the case. Now, they need to stay healthy at tackle, but I like the interior depth-wise.
Later in the show.
Sorry, one more thing. The future of the offensive line.
Oh, very good.
Is in real good shape.
Yeah, no, I understand why you wanted to get that in there. I completely agree. Later in the show, we'll go through this defense. We'll talk about the 2 deep there. Some guys we're excited about as well. But we do want to step aside just for a moment. Pre-game, post-game, no game at all. Any time is the right time for Zaxby's platters, just as long as you're hungry. Feed your team with your choice of traditional or buffalo fingers or boneless or traditional wings. If you're having trouble deciding, get the best of both worlds with a sampler platter. And don't forget that world-famous sauce. Satisfy your chicken craving with Zaxby's platters or online or on the app. Your Tallahassee Zaxby's, a proud Golden Chief booster for 17 years. Go Noles. More of the Warchant.com Game Day Show. Brought to you by Zaxby's atop Hotel Indigo in just a moment.
Something big, something huge is taking over the world of chicken sandwiches. Zaxby's new signature sandwich with Zax sauce or new spicy Zax sauce. Because the chicken sandwich war ain't over yet. The new signature sandwich, it's taking over. And it's only at Zaxby's.
Warchant.com has been the definitive home of all things FSU sports for over 20 years and is now part of On3, the next generation network. Warchant.com has the most experienced, tenured, and largest staff on the Florida State sports beat and now features innovative resources, including an NIL database that projects player value and a truly aggregated composite recruiting ranking system that will set the bar in the industry. You can have access to all of this in addition to Wake Up Warchant, The Jeff Cameron Show, Seminole Headlines, complete pre, in-game, and post-game coverage, plus year-round recruiting coverage for only $1 a year. Yeah, that's right, $1, 365 days. Get some. Here's how to get started. Head over to warchant.com or on3.com. From the team's drop-down menu at the top of the screen or the upper left corner if you're on mobile, select teams, scroll down to Florida State, and then select Warchant. There, you'll see the limited offer for 1 year for $1. Tap or click, choose Florida State from the drop-down, annual or monthly, enter your billing info, and hit subscribe. That's it. $1 for a year of Warchant.com, the ultimate deal for the ultimate fan from the Ultimate Seminoles Sports Source. Warchant.com.
Zaxby's Chicken Finger Plate comes with 12 dippable, dunkable, do-it-any-way-you-wantable sauces, and a plate of our hand-breaded fingers. Oh, and don't forget the napkins. Famous fried chicken, endless sauce abilities, only at Zaxby's.
Welcome back, Warchant Game Day here atop Hotel Indigo, brought to you by our friends at Zaxby's. Good to be with you. Turn to my left, I see my man, Ira Schafel, managing editor, Warchant.com. And Ira, before I bring you in here, let me read something for the folks here and the folks watching at home, because I think it's an exciting time, I think, for Florida State fans as they feel a little bit of buzz and a shift in towards positive things happening with the program and the commitment to football. This is a quote: "We are going to make a substantial investment in that program in personnel," Alfred told Warchant.com in an article that Ira wrote, exclusive interview. "Making that investment just helps the program. It helps the student athletes. It helps put us on par with the other programs and what the other programs are doing." According to an industry source, Florida State's $2 million investment on support staff in 2021 had the Noles just outside the top 20 nationally in that area. By spending closer to $4 million, the Noles would have been right there near the top 10. It's not known how much other schools are ramping it up, but we do know that Florida State has given a lot of support to Mike Norvell now, and they have expanded that staff on and off the field, raises for the personnel on the field. Obviously, they understand, and I think you get this sense in multiple interviews you've done, either with the university president or the athletic director, that football is the driving economic engine. It's time to make sure Florida State puts its best foot forward.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans probably feel like, well, what took you so long? But I think it's a combination of things. You had a program the last few years that was in a state of flux. When Jimbo Fisher left, you brought in a new regime, Willie Taggart. I think early on they felt that probably wasn't going to be real successful. So I don't think they wanted to invest a ton there. Then Mike Norvell comes in. Now you have a new administration at the university. Michael Alford's the new athletic director, a new president, new board of trustees chair. And I think when you look at the landscape of college sports, everybody sees what's happening with the SEC and the Big Ten, and there's probably going to be some shuffling of conferences. And I think Florida State clearly wants to make sure that they're in the conversation when some of these other conferences look to expand again. And so they are making that investment. As you said, last year they spent about $2 million in support staff, and that's not the coaches. The coaches' salaries are about $6 million when you factor in Mike Norvell and his 10 assistant coaches, which is one of the top probably 10 or 15 coaching staff salaries in the country. The support staff has been lacking. Clemson and Alabama spend over $5 million a year in support staff in terms of analysts and recruiting scouts and all these other positions. Florida State's now up their game from $2 million last year to almost $4 million this year. It's a big investment, and it's, again, a sign of Florida State's commitment to football.
Yeah, Nick Saban began the process at Alabama where he had an open checkbook and was able to bring in former coaches. We saw it became a halfway house for fired coaches on the Alabama staff, and they would come in and they were able to break down film and do those sorts of things. And then others caught on, realizing what an advantage it is. And as they expanded, Florida State hadn't yet. So it's exciting to hear that news that they have now obviously throw their hat in the ring with an opportunity to compete at the highest levels. You and I were at camp, Ira. You've been really bullish on the improvements you've seen with this team, and we talk about it a lot on things like Seminole Headlines, and certainly you write in your articles on Warchant.com and when you're on Wake Up Warchant. I'm just curious, what are you most excited to see today in this, the home opener?
I think the biggest thing I want to see is Jordan Travis making plays from the pocket. You know, they've made a lot of efforts this offseason to improve the receiving core. They brought in several transfers who we're pretty excited about. The offensive line, they brought in several transfers there as well. We know what Jordan Travis can do as a runner. Everybody knows that. We know what Jordan Travis can do when he's on the move and throwing. He's shown he has an ability to do that. But the plays from the pocket, the dimension that will add to the offense, that's kind of the missing piece. We know that the running backs are solid. They're going to run the ball well. He can be very dangerous outside the pocket. I want to see him against an overmatched team, stay in the pocket, trust his pocket, make those plays to the receivers. That, to me, would be a good sign. That doesn't mean he's going to be able to do it against LSU 1 week later, but it would be a positive sign, because if he can't do it in a game like this, then it gives you concern that he definitely won't be able to do it in the later games.
I thought throughout camp and really all the post-practice interviews and even the lead up to this week, Mike Norvell seems very confident. He's smart. He chooses his words very carefully. He's careful not to suggest that there's something they aren't, those kinds of things. And everybody should do that in almost every walk of life, but he does a very good job with it. That said, I think he likes this team a lot. I think he feels like they've put in the work. I think he feels like they deserve success. They've earned it. And he wants it for him. You can tell he wants it for him. Now, he knows it's important for him too, but he really does care about the work the kids have done.
Well, and the nice thing is when you talk to people around the program, this is when the cameras aren't on, but when you're on the sides talking to support staff and different departments in the athletics department, they're saying the same things, that this is a team that has really bought in. They have come together. They're all working together for a common purpose. They're working hard. They're working extra. They're going out by themselves to work on things even when the coaches aren't around. Now, again, does that necessarily mean they're back to where they need to be? No, but it's a good first step. This is the first time really in probably 6-7 years, I would say, where Florida State, the vibe around the program is that there's a real strong connection between the players and the coaches, and they're all on the same page, and that's a good step.
When we would get ready for openers in the past, to your point, it was sort of like, well, maybe this will work. If this works, they get a bounce here. This kid raises his level, whatever it might be. To have that kind of chatter on the sidelines while we're at practice, to hear the people that work in the athletic department be excited, it really is. It's been over half a decade since we've heard any of that. There were always a dour sort of feeling like maybe we'll win in spite of the fact, right? But that's different now because of the implementation of a vision and the way that Mike wants to run this program. And I think that this is something now that you've got the weight of that athletic staff and everybody that's part of that pulling in the same direction. Tom and I were talking about that earlier. If there is a weakness on this team, though, I am curious, what is it that you think is glaring? What is it you think that they're going to have to overcome in order to have the kind of season that we all want to see them have based on the hard work they put in?
Yeah, I don't know if they have a glaring weakness. That's what I think about this team is I think for the most part they've fixed a lot of the concerns you had coming into this season. They did improve the offensive line. They did improve wide receiver. They did improve linebacker. So I think they've gotten all those up to a higher standard. If there's one thing I really want to see, and maybe we'll see it some today, is the defensive ends, because that obviously was the biggest question mark coming out of last season. You lose Jermaine Johnson, the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. You lose Keir Thomas. You're replacing him with some guys who've gotten older, and you expect more from them. And you also brought in a big-time transfer in Jared Verse, but he's a guy that's never played on this stage. He came from an FCS school, all the talent in the world, 6'4", 250 pounds, can run like the wind. He races Jordan Travis sometimes in practice.
Yeah.
He is an extremely athletic guy, but we haven't really seen him do it in games yet. So that to me is the big question. But when I say I don't see any glaring weaknesses, that doesn't mean they're all check pluses in these other areas.
Yeah, it just means there's nothing that's an obvious hole to fill.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point because last year going into the season, we talk about the differences between last year and this year. And we got a fire alarm going off here. But if you think about when that happened, you went into the season, you're like, well, if they have any injuries here, it's going to be a problem. If they have any injuries there, it's going to be a problem. They can withstand some things this year because they've done a good job of finding replacement players and recruiting the area. I think we should probably take a step away for a moment here while they're doing that. Yeah. Oh, they got it. Just like that. Top notch here at Hotel Indigo. You know what it is? It's the food, the grilling all around us that smells delicious while we're sitting here. If you're not here, you should be. Hotel Indigo, top floor, 7th floor. Step in, take that elevator on up. You'll find a bunch of Noles out here watching the pregame show on Warchant TV and warchant.com. Ira Chaffel, my guest right now. You're getting set to walk over and document this game and the post game, and this should be an interesting season. We'll both be up at LSU. I should say New Orleans for the LSU game. We're really excited about that. I think that for Florida State, that difference, you're right. They're not elite yet, but they're good enough to win the 50-50 games they were losing so many of last year. That's really the point here. When we go ahead and look at the schedule and project, you got a lot of games, Ira, 7 or 8 maybe, that are one-score spreads. It's exciting. When you have a schedule like that, you really realize that it's volatile. They could go 9-3, but they could go 6-6.
And I think the thing to remember, and a lot of the people that are reading sites like Warchant constantly are paying close attention to the roster and all the changes, they're aware that this is a very different looking team. But if you haven't paid close attention, a lot of people just show up for the games or watch the games but they don't really pay that close attention. This is a very different team from a personnel standpoint on the offensive side of the ball. This offensive line is going to have 3 new starters on it compared to what you saw a year ago. The left side's still the same, but center to right tackle is going to be 3 new guys. The wide receiving core, there's a chance that every wide receiver that starts in this game could be brand new wide receivers, those transfers who came in. When you look at running back, Trey Benson came in from Oregon, a big-time running back talent. So this team, again, offense was the big problem for this team last year, especially once the defense settled down. This offense is going to look a whole lot different. And now it may not click from day one. We'll see. But that to me is important to remember. Don't expect this to be the same exact team you saw last year, just a year older. They brought in a whole lot of new personnel on offense.
And they had to, because it really was a weakness. And I think it's a group that was going to do things differently than a lot of teams in the ACC. That's actually kind of fun to think about, too. Defenses are going to have to really deal with, well, first of all, Jordan's legs, which are elite, a deep running back core, a bigger, stronger, deeper offensive line. I think Florida State will predicate most of what they want to do on the run. They're better at passing. They're better at wide receivers. So when they do decide to pull the trigger after having set it up, they have a lot of plays off those runs to the outside. I think you'll see some pretty exciting developing plays where you're in the stadium, you see it. We've run this play to the left side, boom, shot play. He does a great job of developing that. He now has a couple of guys that can go do something about it.
And Jordan has to hit those throws. When we talk about what we're looking for to see, I mean, those opportunities are going to be there, and Jordan has to hit those throws. Year ago, 2 years ago, the receivers they were sending out there, it was a very small margin for error. And so it was kind of understandable when they didn't connect on those.
Yeah.
When you're throwing 6'7" Johnny Wilson out there and 6'4" Malik McLean and 6'3" Deuce Span and these bigger targets, you have to give them a chance to make the play. You can't airmail it. You can't throw it over the wrong shoulder. Jordan has to hit those plays because those are going to be there to be made.
Ira, always appreciate it, brother. Can't wait to see you inside for the home opener here against Duquesne. I had a chance to sit and talk with Jeff Culhane, the new announcer, play-by-play voice for Florida State football and sports in general. You'll hear that interview next as we continue on Warchant Game Day, brought to you by Zaxby's here from Hotel Indigo. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
Something big, something huge is taking over the world of chicken sandwiches. Zaxby's new signature sandwich with Zax sauce or new spicy Zax sauce. Because the chicken sandwich war ain't over yet. The new signature sandwich, it's taking over. And it's only at Zaxby's.
Warchant.com has been the definitive home of all things FSU sports for over 20 years and is now part of On3, the next generation network. Warchant.com has the most experienced, tenured, and largest staff on the Florida State sports beat and now features innovative resources, including an NIL database that projects player value and a truly aggregated composite recruiting ranking system that will set the bar in the industry. You can have access to all of this in addition to Wake Up Warchant, The Jeff Cameron Show, Seminole Headlines, complete pre, in-game, and post-game coverage, plus year-round recruiting coverage for only $1 a year. Yeah, that's right, $1, 365 days. Get some. Here's how to get started. Head over to warchant.com or on3.com. From the team's drop-down menu at the top of the screen or the upper left corner if you're on mobile, select teams, scroll down to Florida State, and then select Warchant. There, you'll see the limited offer for 1 year for $1. Tap or click, choose Florida State from the drop-down, annual or monthly, enter your billing info, and hit subscribe. That's it. $1 for a year of Warchant.com, the ultimate deal for the ultimate fan from the Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. Warchant.com.
Zaxby's Chicken Finger Plate comes with 12 dippable, dunkable, do-it-any-way-you-wantable sauces, and a plate of our hand-breaded fingers. Oh, and don't forget the napkins. Famous fried chicken, endless sauceabilities, only at Zaxby's.
93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV. Happy Libations Friday, everybody. We made it. Here we sit on the precipice of college football, Florida State football, most importantly, just a day away. And I thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk to the new voice of the Noles. Jeff Culhane's going to join me right now. In fact, if you haven't read Corey Clark's article, it'd be a good opportunity to talk to the new voice of the Noles. Jeff Culhane's going to join me right now. Who Jeff Culhane is between the. In fact, if you haven't read Corey Clark's article, it'd be a good opportunity to talk to the new voice of the Noles. Jeff Culhane's going to join me right now. Who Jeff Culhane is between the. In fact, if you haven't read Corey Clark's article, it'd be a good opportunity to talk to the new voice of the Noles. Jeff Culhane's going to join me right now. Jeff Culhane is between the. In fact, if you haven't read Corey Clark's article, it'd be a good opportunity to talk. Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure to get to know you just a little bit. We see each other at football practice, I know, and you've told me a little bit about your efforts to get acclimated to Tallahassee, get your family here from North Dakota, of course. And for people who haven't read the article, you've been the voice of the Bison, national championship rings, plural, and season after season of success. What made you think, you know what, it's time to mix it up? Because I don't dismiss where you were and what you accomplished. You were the voice of an incredibly proud and successful program. You saw the opportunity, obviously put your name in the hat. Were you at all trepidatious about that, or did you think immediately, this is an opportunity I can't pass up?
No, just like you said, the latter there. I looking at, my career path and where I wanted to go, being at a place like Florida State was always the dream. And, to your point, I had a great job. We had a great life in Fargo. We were around great people. We were around amazing coaches and student athletes and administrators. And Jeff, there were days, driving home a lot of the time through a lot of snow and wind where thinking to myself, I think we could be here for the rest of our lives. We were in that spot. But, when Gene announced his retirement in March, something clicked inside of me, and this was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. And, Florida State is one of the elite, one of the blue bloods in college athletics. You know all the history. You talk about the national championships and the amazing, stars and Bobby Bowden and all the coaches. And it's been amazing to get to meet Jim Gladden and Mickey Andrews and so many people around Florida State's football program. I talked with E.G. Green last night. Could have talked to him for 4 or 5 hours. You guys all know the names. And so, no, I mean, it was a situation where in my career arc, I wanted to be at a place that where it matters. And this is a place where certainly it does, and ready to roll tomorrow night.
How long ago, Jeff, because I get asked this question sometimes. If you're a broadcaster of any kind, if you're in the business, people want to know when you realized that you wanted to do that and when you thought it was possible. How far back do we go in the childhood of Jeff Culhane before we find a young man who wanted to be a broadcaster and is now living out his dream?
Yeah, the radio was always on, Jeff, in our house, man. It was always on in the mornings for whatever reason. My dad turned it on. Every morning we woke up and went to school, we were listening to the radio station. We were listening to games on the weekends with our local high school and colleges in town and in the area. And so, for whatever reason, broadcasting and sports has always been a big part of my life. I played college football, 1 year of college baseball. I always knew I wanted sports to be a part of who I was on a day-to-day basis at a young age. And so my first job in radio, I was 14 years old, working a weekend a part-time shift at an oldie station called KORN in Mitchell, South Dakota, the home of the Corn Palace. So that's very appropriate. The Mitchell Kernels, Corn Kernels, by the way, the name of our the mascot, our nickname of our high school team. And so, young age, a lot of just bizarre connections to the industry. My dad, as I talked about with the radio, he did some games with high school football, high school basketball. He's also a public address announcer in our hometown. An uncle of mine who gave me my first full-time job out of college was in TV and radio growing up as well. And so just kind of always around it. And then I think when I decided I wanted this to be something I did every single day would have been, in college. I started doing games when I was 18, again, at the local station I talked about. And when you get to be sophomore, junior in college, you're thinking, okay, I got to figure this thing out. I got to decide I'm going to make some money here coming up. And I made the choice that this is where I wanted to go. This is the path I wanted to follow. And it was, a little bit after that where I decided, I want to be at a place like Florida State where it's big time college athletics. And what a blessing to be here right now.
Well, you've entered into the mix now, good sir, and a lot of people are anxious and excited to hear from you. And, of course, most people over time fall in love eventually with the play-by-play announcer, or certainly get a sense of who he is and what he's about. How would you describe your style? What would you say people are who are looking forward to hearing from you tomorrow? Can't believe we're finally here, yeah. Jeff. It's exciting. I know how anxious and excited you are. How would you describe your stylings, I should say, as a broadcaster?
Yeah, preparation. I enjoy to prepare. I think that I think every broadcaster would tell you they over prepare to a certain degree, but that's an important aspect of doing this the right way. So being prepared, I like to have some storylines. I call them nuggets. I like to have a saucy nugget or two within the broadcast of each game that we have, and so that's a big part. Whether it's a statistic, whether it's a fun storyline, whether what the connections are between the two programs playing one another, right? And so, that's where it starts. Energetic. I like to bring a lot of energy, not over the top, but certainly want to do justice to the amazing plays and the amazing moments when they happen, right? And then have fun. I mean, it's about having a good time. I want you, when you're listening or watching our behind the mic cams that are going to be in the booth this year, I want you to enjoy being there with us. And so we're going to paint the picture. We're going to be descriptive. We're going to be prepared, and we're going to have some fun in bringing you what we see out there on the field or on the court.
And you get to do it alongside one of my close, dear friends, ex-teammate of mine way back when, all the way to when we were pipsqueaks and then on into high school, and my hometown guy, William Floyd. I know you've been able to go out to dinner with William. Have you gotten to know him to the point where you feel like you can reel him in when he gets overly passionate, shall we say, about his Noles?
He said when you guys were in high school, you would have won 11-0 and won your first playoff game if you'd have played better, Jeff, is what he told me.
That's what he said.
That's what he told me. I don't know. I didn't see that one.
I have a retort, but I will save it for another day. Yes. And we have talked about it many times, he and I, over a cold one. But yes, it's good to know that he's fibbing on me.
Yes, no, yeah, exactly. But I have, and I tell you what, you talk about energy. Bar none's going to bring the juice, man. He's going to bring the juice, and so I can't wait to just interact with him. His knowledge of the game, obviously, the way he sees it through his lens, obviously, the talent on the football field that he possessed when he was here at Florida State and playing the National Football League. I mean, there's not many guys out there that win national championships, win a Super Bowl. He's an FSU Hall of Famer, an ACC legend. And so I can't wait just to kind of, a lot of this is going to be about the play-by-play, but also a lot of this, especially early on, is going to be me listening and leaning on Bar None and Tom. And those are the guys that have been around. Those are the guys that certainly fans know and are accustomed to. And so, a big part of this too is I'm not going to make this about me. It's not about me. It's about us, and it's about the fans and the players. And so I'm certainly going to take my fair share of time, teeing those guys up and setting them up and trying to put them in great positions to succeed as well.
I'm glad you mentioned Tom Block. He's another dear friend of mine and helped me when I broke into the industry. These are two guys that have a passion and a love and a historical knowledge of Florida State. So it's great to hear you say that, because I think they're the kind of guys that go out of their way to make sure they paint that picture for guys that are new to the deal, new to Florida State, and so it'll be fun to listen to you guys grow together and get to know each other. And I'll just tell our audience right now listening, Jeff's a great guy. I've had a chance to talk with him, like I said, at the start of the interview, at practices. He's a humble, hardworking guy who's trying to take it all in. And there's a lot here at Florida State. So I'm looking forward to hearing your broadcast on Saturday as well. I just wanted folks to get to know you a little bit, Jeff. We'll continue to get to know each other. Best of luck to you in your first broadcast here at Florida State. A lot of people will be listening. A lot of people excited to hear you. Thanks for joining us today, man. Be good.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate the kind words, and go Noles.
Go Noles.
Something big Something huge is taking over the world of chicken sandwiches. Zaxby's new signature sandwich with Zax sauce or new spicy Zax sauce. Because the chicken sandwich war ain't over yet. The new signature sandwich, it's taking over. And it's only at Zaxby's.
Warchant.com has been the definitive home of all things FSU sports for over 20 years and is now part of On3, the next generation network. Warchant.com has the most experienced, tenured, and largest staff on the Florida State sports beat and now features innovative resources, including an NIL database that projects player value and a truly aggregated composite recruiting ranking system that will set the bar in the industry. You can have access to all of this in addition to Wake Up Warchant, The Jeff Cameron Show, Seminole Headlines, complete pre, in-game, and post-game coverage, plus year-round recruiting coverage for only $1 a year. Yeah, that's right, $1, 365 days. Get some. Here's how to get started. Head over to warchant.com or on3.com. From the team's drop-down menu at the top of the screen or the upper left corner if you're on mobile, select teams, scroll down to Florida State, and then select Warchant. There, you'll see the limited offer for 1 year for $1. Tap or click, choose Florida State from the drop-down, annual or monthly, enter your billing info, and hit subscribe. That's it. $1 for a year of Warchant.com, the ultimate deal for the ultimate fan from the Ultimate Seminoles Sports Source. Warchant.com.
Zaxby's Chicken Finger Plate comes with 12 dippable, dunkable, do-it-any-way-you-wantable sauces, and a plate of our hand-breaded fingers. Oh, and don't forget the napkins. Famous fried chicken, endless sauce abilities, only at Zaxby's.
Welcome back. Warchant Game Day brought to you by our friends at Zaxby's as we are live here at Hotel Indigo at the rooftop. Come on by and say hello and welcome back football with us, won't you please? 7th floor, Hotel Indigo. If you're making your way over to Tailgate, obviously that's where we're located. We'll be here until 4 o'clock and get you all set. Got a lot of pregame still to go here, and I'm looking forward to it. Let's take care of some business here very quickly. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate your support of what we do. What are Big Daddy's plays? I just showed Tom Lane one during the break.
A sizable play.
Yeah, it's a fun play. I'll get to that one in a bit. It's a little parlay for you there, Bob. I'm taking a chance out there. Bo, thank you so much. It's awfully kind of you as well. He mentions that we're crushing it right now. Well, we appreciate you supporting us, watching it, listening to it, and really all the stuff we've done since I've joined Warchant and Tom joined Warchant and the crew that was already here. It's been one big family. I think we're just now hitting our stride, getting excited about the things that we're able to do. We're only able to do that because of the support we have here, support of our sponsors, support of you listening at home, watching on Warchant TV. I'm sincere when I say to you, thank you very, very much. Michael, thank you as well. So we'll go back and make sure we told everybody thanks that have said nice things to us there in the chat. If you have a question, fire away. We'll try to get to it in time. It is a busy show today. I do want to make a move and shift here, Tom, to Who's Hot, Who's Cold. It's brought to you by Barano Heating and Air Conditioning. Turn to the experts at Barano Heating and Air Conditioning to make your home and fan cave the ideal temperature today. Online at baranoac.com. You want to start with the cold, and we'll go to the hot. I'll tell you why. The players have had a great camp, and we've documented that and talked about that. Obviously, some guys have played better than others, and we don't want to be cruel here. We don't know. We haven't seen a game yet this year, but any of the guys that are not able to play that we expected to play a significant role this year that unfortunately got injured, and that's nobody's fault. People get hurt. It's a game of football. It's a contact game. But a guy like Caden Lyles would fall into the cold because we expected he would be a player of significant value to Florida State's offensive line this year. We now know he's lost for the season. We wish him nothing but the best. I hope he gets better. Hope he's able to contribute if he wants to come back next year. But unfortunately, he's out. He's cold for Barano. Who's hot, who's cold?
Yeah, I mean, again, if you just want to stick to a specific position, center, and that's the one that it's got to prove it over the next couple of weeks, over the next 3 games. And Darius Washington being the starter, Thomas Schrader is going to be the first reserve. They've been working other guys there. Mike Norvell has said that at practice, so we're allowed to bring that up. But it'll be interesting to see if there are more than 2 different offensive linemen playing center today. How do they look? And then if everything's hunky-dory, we talked about this in our preview segment earlier in the week from Hotel Indigo, even if things look good snapping-wise today, that doesn't prove anything quite yet. Because when you have a defensive lineman, an interior defensive lineman from LSU lining up across from you, it's a different deal when you're a center. You got to get that snap off, and it's got to be incredibly efficient because there's an NFL defensive lineman bearing down on you. So we'll see how those things shake out over the next 2 to 3 games, but it is critical that center play gets better, and injury is what's holding it back. That's why it's cold.
Well, let's bring up the fact, you brought it up just now, but I want to reiterate what you had to say. Darius Washington might be the key to the entirety of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know when Maurice Smith is going to come back. We hope that he will. We just do not know, and they do not discuss injuries in which there are question marks. So, for example, if a player is out for the year, they'll tell you that. If they're not sure how long they're going to be out, if it's going to be 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 4 weeks, they really won't discuss it. And I understand that policy. So we don't know when Maurice Smith will be back. We know he's not back this week, though.
Yeah.
And that's Darius Washington's job now. I would guess behind him is Schrader. It's a guess. Thomas Schrader seems to be the guy that's behind him right now. And listen, he's got tremendous upside. Part of the problem with the building blocks of the offensive line that Florida State's had, if you go back to the beginning, the roots of the issue, they were doing a poor job, previous staff and the staff before, of recruiting offensive linemen. They just didn't do a good job at the end of Rick Trickett's time here. My opinion was that they were failing the offensive line in terms of the evaluations and the numbers. All right, so we moved on from there, but Willie Taggart came in. Obviously, that was not a successful regime. So any of the offensive linemen that he signed, or the vast majority of them, especially the ones that were highly touted, like so many of his other recruits, have either transferred or not panned out. And so that's the situation you had there. All right, so now we enter in the Mike Norvell era. Alex Atkins is the offensive line coach. A tremendous hire. He is also the offense coordinator this year. A tremendous hire. Has turned out to be a godsend, as this guy can evaluate, he can teach it, he can recruit it. He is probably the most respected coach on the staff besides Mike Norvell. I really believe that to be true. Alex Atkins is a gem and a guy that will be a head coach in big-time college football, in my opinion. He's done a good job of teaching what he had, but he's needed to add what I call better clay to get something more from this group, and that is, what are you starting with? They've done a good job of adding pieces, but because so many guys were forced into action before they were ready, simply because they didn't have the bodies, or the bodies they had weren't talented enough to get the job done, they played a lot of young guys. The problem, as we all know, with playing young offensive linemen is they're physically not ready. They might be athletically gifted. They may be smart, but they're going against third and fourth year defensive linemen in a lot of cases that have been in the weightlifting programs and the nutritional programs of other schools. These are grown men now. These are guys that can move some weight, all right? I don't care how big and strong you are as a true freshman trying to play offensive line in Power 5 football, you're not going to have a lot of success, or very rarely are you going to find guys that have success. It does happen occasionally. Some players are preternaturally gifted. You see it, but it is very, very rare. So this is the first time in a long time that we look at this offensive line and we say, wow, they've incurred 2 separate injuries on the offensive line already this year, both at center, and we're not worried. Right. That talks about the development, the teaching, the ability, and the depth that they have now provided this group. Now, knock on wood, they don't have to keep testing that depth. But they have guys, they have answers at guard, they have answers at backup, they have answers at tackle. Maybe not as many answers as we like behind those starting tackles, but there are guys like a Turn-in-Time that I think if he had to play, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And if you get a center back, Darius can go play tackle for you as well.
Correct.
He's the ultimate swing man on the offensive line. Look, for years, offensive line recruiting wasn't worth a buck, which incidentally, Warchant.com is for 1 year right now. If you go to Warchant.com and click for the annual plan, head over there today and you'll get all the great coverage from today and tomorrow. It'll be a wall-to-wall coverage period, especially as we're going to New Orleans. But since then, this is the fun part, is you take a look at the 2 early enrollees in Kanaya Charlton and Daughtry Richardson.
Both talented, both big, strong guys that are going to be good football players.
Then you see early, Armella and Sapp. Sapp might be a center for the future. He's working out there
I'm
right
higher
now.
on Sapp than almost anybody. I think who builds a guy like that? He's ridiculous. He's massive. You can't move him.
You can't bring Sapp up without you bringing
I forget about it. He's massive.
He's put together.
Every time I see him, I'm like, that's a true friend. What are we doing?
Good luck uprooting that guy when he's 21.
You can't.
Yeah, right.
So they got guys.
That's the future of it. And look, if you do what you're supposed to do on the football field this year, you're going to retain the recruits that are committed to Florida State, which includes Lucas Simmons, a tackle, a bona fide tackle.
Oh, an NFL tackle.
Yes.
He's got feet. He's got length. He's athletic. Yes. And
not that Armella isn't, but he might bump Armella inside if you find a guy like that.
You just have him play on either side.
Left and right.
Yeah. So
they've got answers in the long term of the position. In the short term, they've got enough they can work with for the interior. Tackle, you have a candidate. Last year, you didn't even have a candidate. If one guy went down,
you had to force guards to play tackle last year. That's what you did.
And at this point, it has gone from cold in the short term to long in the hot term for the offensive line. The question is, how many more injuries do you suffer? And I hate this question, but it's Mike Norvell's luck. So far, he lost 2 centers.
It's also football. People get
It's
hurt.
also football, but I don't know that you can absorb more than, say, 2 more hits the O-line. But think about that. If you only had 1 key injury last year to Dylan Gibbons, you lost the football game before it started.
Yes, you did.
Unless your defense scored you 10 points. Like outright gives you a short field and then scores a defensive touchdown with Jermaine Johnson, something along those lines. Now you suffered 2 losses. It's not all lost at this point, and you probably could suffer a 3rd setback and still be patchwork. That's what most other Power 5 teams look like week to week.
Really
It's
good.
nice to be home.
Talented, deep teams obviously deal with these kinds of injuries by replacing those players with replacement level players that are plus players. They were highly touted players. Those are guys that you feel good about having to put into the game maybe sooner than you wanted, but you still feel good about them. This is the first time in a while that Florida State has 3 or 4 guys that have to, if they have to play, you're not overly concerned. Let's go to the hot now. Again, who's hot, who's cold? Bear no AC. Here we go. Let's talk about who's hot. Well, I don't think anybody would choose anybody other than Johnny Wilson for this segment.
Yeah, that's right.
And what I mean by that is Johnny
I'm surprised
Wilson's,
you did, but
well,
yes.
okay, so I'm the one who says pump the brakes on the kind of hyperbole we've heard surrounding Johnny Wilson's name. He hasn't done it yet in a big-time football game against a good football team, and he won't have to do it against a good football team today. He'll be doing it against Duquesne. That doesn't mean that he hasn't had a tremendous camp, because he has. So I may be cautiously optimistic, more cautiously optimistic than many members of the Warchant staff, but I'm not devoid of excitement for this young man because he's come a long way. This is a kid who I assure you in the spring was wildly inconsistent.
Yeah.
It's a guy that for every great catch he made, every play that he high pointed, used that body, 6'7" frame, Corey would talk about it for 3 days. I would say, hey, hold on. He also dropped 4 passes. Right. So, you got to catch the ball consistently. And I can't trust you if day 1 you're great, day 2 you're not, day 3 you're great, day 4 you're not. I wanted to see that. Well, it is safe to say, suffice that he has absolutely improved the consistency with which he plays, also the amount of plays he can make. This is a guy that I believe helps Florida State on first down, first and foremost. That little hitch to get you 2nd and 3, you can turn your big body to a backer or a safety, and you're going to make that play. You're going to shield yourself and make that play. You win first down more often because of Johnny Wilson. Now it's 2nd and 3, and now you can run tempo. Now you're in trouble because Jordan can run. We've got you having to play us honest, and it's a numbers game.
Yeah, and he can help you on any down now. That's the thing that I learned in camp. What you're saying, I think, would have held true no matter what, that body type is going to prove on first down to be
only
very
if you
valuable.
catch it.
Well, yes,
that's my point.
Yeah, his bad days are no longer god-awful. And they were in spring. I'm not going to sugarcoat
They were awful.
They were awful. His bad days now are pretty good. So if you've gone from awful to pretty good for a bad day, and then you have dominant sequences in practice, the only question is, and some members of the staff are saying there are no more questions. I'm saying there are. Saturdays still matter to me. You got to prove it because now people are going to go headhunting for you. And I don't necessarily mean from a targeting standpoint, but people are they're going to try to eat at you. It's like tall guys. I'm not one of them, but dudes who are 6'5" and taller say, why does everybody try and prove how tough they are to a big guy?
Because,
that's going to happen on the football field this year. So how do you react to that? Do you have the composure to handle it? I think Johnny's wired well enough because he likes to block that it won't matter. He'll just put you on your butt the next play if they call a toss sweep to the right. But the important thing to me is if you prove it early in the season, not to us, not for any other reason, that if you prove it, then you can achieve balance on first down because you can't have extra bodies creeping towards the line of scrimmage. You got to respect Johnny Wilson before the snap on first down, which should open up more things for the running game. I think the goal this year for this offense, to stay hot, to be better than they were last year, is to find ways to have a balanced look pre-snap, because if they get a balanced look from a defense pre-snap, they're going to hit more than just an occasional explosive run. They're going to be able to consistently run the football because of the threat of Jordan Travis' legs. That's what gets me excited.
Well, that has to do with dictating terms, and they have not been able to dictate terms to a defense in forever. And now there have been moments in time, like against North Carolina and a few games here and there, where you go, oh, they're doing whatever they want to do. North Carolina is really, but it's been very rare against anybody in the Power Five, right? So they have to be able to win enough first downs that defenses have to play you honest. They got to beat you over the top on a play early so that the safeties can't creep down and really hyper-concentrate on the run, which is what I would do if I were defending Florida State. I would say there's no way, no how you're going to beat me up on the ground. I'm not going to let Jordan Travis's legs or Trey Benson's or anybody else beat me in this game. I'm going to make him throw it. Yeah. Can he? Over and over and over again. Well, you can only really do that if you can commit to it. So what you're saying is make teams have to play you honest by succeeding on first down with a variety of looks. I think, listen, that's the goal. That's what they'll try to do. We'll see if they're successful.
Well, I think the other thing, too, is to use a college baseball analogy, is a college baseball pitcher, let's say not your Friday night starter.
Yeah.
Pretty erratic, right? Not like a minor leaguer. Imagine having a teacup for a strike zone as an umpire with on a college baseball mound. That's a problem. It's going to be a long game.
Long game.
That's what Jordan Travis was dealing with these receivers last year.
Without question. And
the strike zone for them to come down with a catch is a teacup. And now it might be a 32-ounce Yeti. I don't know. With Johnny Wilson, it's much larger. It's not a gallon bucket, but it's much larger. So the thing is, he does have to be incrementally more accurate, but he also kind of doesn't. The net effect is when you have larger bodies and a body like Johnny Wilson, it doesn't have to be perfect for somebody to come down with a catch.
And can you create one-on-ones? They've done such a good job of creating one-on-ones. I mean, you can talk about Kenny Dillingham, and you can argue whether you thought he did a good job of calling plays or did a good job with the offense in general. I would argue he did engineer an awful lot of one-on-ones, which is kind of the goal of an offensive coordinator, is to put your playmakers in a position to make plays. If they can't, that's not on you. I joke about this all the time. You can't scheme up a lot of one-on-zeros. So, I mean, it's just not going to happen. And he schemed up an awful lot of one-on-ones last year, but he did so for guys that were 5'7", 5'9", and he did so for guys that weren't going to win their matchups. They weren't going to, I mean, it was difficult, right? So, to that point, a Deuce Span is an athletic freak. Johnny Wilson is 6'7" with that catch radius. He doesn't even have to be great. He's just 6'7" with that catch radius.
That's another player who had a good camp.
Span,
hot for Deuce Span. That doesn't mean that he is going to be a 50-catch player. It just looks so much more fluid and natural, the position of receiver, than it did in spring. There were moments in spring where you even said, first week, you said, man, he's fluid. Yes, as an athlete, he 100% is. But then what happened next week? When it comes to the route tree and footwork and releasing out of a route, where do you put your hands? How do you catch the ball? Is it away from your body or off your chest plate? All those things. It was rough. It was rough to watch that at times. And he didn't look confident. And he looked like he was thinking about his steps. He was counting in his head. All those things. That is now lessened to a large degree in camp. Does that mean that he is a bona fide wide receiver yet? No. But I think the growth curve has been pretty quick.
Well, let me point out, and I brought it up in the first hour, and I think it's just important to reiterate. Listen, a lot of times we're doing our best, you and I, on the Jeff Cameron Show or any other facet of what we do on a daily basis, to be objective, to have an opinion, listen, I'm not making things up as I go along. I'm giving you my honest opinion. But deep down, here's where we get back to it. We're Noles.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm saying this as a Nole. Mike likes these guys because of how hard they've practiced.
Yeah.
Mike likes these guys because of how hard they've put in the time on the playbook, studying it, learning it, working together when the coaches weren't around. Coach Storm's workouts, they put themselves through the paces to get better because they're desperate to succeed. All right, why do I bring that up? Well, you're talking about a kid in Deuce Span who looked completely clueless when he got here in the spring. And
I try to be kind.
He looked clueless. Now, what he also looked like, and you're right, he looked like a freak of an athlete. He looked like a guy that, oh, my God, we've got something we can work with here. He doesn't know what he's doing. But when he figures it out, and what happens when you get a guy like that, you hold your breath because you just never know. They might not figure it out. It could be 3 years and time's up. Didn't figure it out. He's going to go dominate somewhere in some games at the park, but it's not going to help you, right?
The final bowl game, the last Duke's Mayo Bowl, you're like, oh, thanks for the 8 for 202.
Right. So my point was, I just want to see how quickly we can get him into the rotation. How quickly can he learn how to run other routes than a go?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a given that you were going to throw two routes to him. You were going to give him the quick game, get the ball out of his hands, where you just fire it out to the flats and hope like hell you get a block from Johnny Wilson. And Deuce Span uses his athleticism and elusiveness, and he's to the house because he's 4'3", right? Or you were going to run a 9. Just go, and I'm going to throw it up to you because you're big, you're tall, you're athletic. Maybe you'll run by the guy. Maybe we get lucky. So that's what we thought. Maybe some special teams work. And the next thing you knew, you and I are watching. I remember the day we were at practice. We looked at each other after he ran a really fluid route, little post, little skinny post, caught the ball, turned and looked back. I mean, I looked at you, you looked at me, because we hadn't seen him do it with the fluidity that he did it with. Later on, little turnaround, little hitch, little go. Next thing we started to see the route tree, right?
And it's not all catches, but it's just
just looked like he had a clue of how to get in and out of his breaks, how to release off the line. These are the nuances of the position. Lots of guys are athletic. Can you deceive? Is there fluidity to what you're doing?
Yeah.
We started to see it, and that goes back to a guy who's putting in time by himself, working hard in the offseason from the spring to the fall to make a go. And, man, that's exciting. That's why you root for people like that, and we're rooting for guys like that.
Yeah, in the early part of practice, they'll do drills against air, throw and catch. And those don't tell you really anything other than maybe arm strength for a quarterback. But one player I would watch against air for is Span, because you want to see how comfortable he is, because they'll break out the route tree, and then, okay, how do you handle it? And I can tell you in the last week or two, he's catching more passes naturally away from his body. It looks, if you were in Ohio, covering Ohio State, you're doing a tour of colleges around the country, and you were plopped down just last week in Tallahassee, you'd say, oh, who's that receiver? You wouldn't say, who's that athlete trying to play receiver? You'd say, who's that receiver? He could be a weapon. And with a guy like Ja'Kai Douglas, obviously banged up, and he's a guy that you try to get mismatches for and one-on-ones.
Very, very specific.
A burner down the field.
Yeah.
Well, Deuce Span could be that player for you now, too. I look forward to seeing what kind of matchups they generate for him, if they do, in the next few weeks.
Seems like everyone's got a chicken sandwich these days, so how do you know which one to try? Luckily, one sandwich towers above all the others in size and deliciousness. Zaxby's signature sandwich. It's an extra large hand-breaded filet, 3 thick-cut pickled chips on a split-top bun, and it comes with your choice of Zax sauce or spicy Zax sauce. It's big, it's delicious. It's only at your neighborhood Tallahassee Zaxby's. Your Tallahassee Zaxby's, a proud Golden Chief booster for 17 years. Go Noles. We're got plenty of time left to talk about some Florida State football, and I'm excited about it on Warchant TV. It's Warchant Game Day. We're atop Hotel Indigo. More in a moment.
The following is a live production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Fire up the grills and turn up the volume. Welcome to Warchant Game Day, presented by Zaxby's of Tallahassee.
He is off, one man to beat, cuts it back. He landed on somebody. They're going to say touchdown.
Warchant.com's Jeff Cameron and Tom Lang bring you the latest news, updates, and analysis around the FSU program ahead of today's kickoff on Bobby Bowden Field.
I know what this game means. And if you don't get up for this one, then go somewhere else. Go do something else, because it is not for you. This is why you play.
Tallahassee Game Day is brought to you by Zaxby's, the official chicken of sports fans. Your Tallahassee Zaxby's, a proud Golden Chief booster for 17 years. Go Noles! Now live and worldwide on Warchant TV, here is Warchant Game Day.
Something big, something huge is taking over the world of chicken sandwiches. Zaxby's new signature sandwich with Zax sauce or new spicy Zax sauce. Because the chicken sandwich war ain't over yet. The new signature sandwich, it's taking over. And it's only at Zaxby's.
Warchant.com has been the definitive home of all things FSU sports for over 20 years and is now part of On3, the next generation network. Warchant.com has the most experienced, tenured, and largest staff on the Florida State sports beat and now features innovative resources, including an NIL database that projects player value and a truly aggregated composite recruiting ranking system that will set the bar in the industry. You can have access to all of this in addition to Wake Up Warchant, The Jeff Cameron Show, Seminole Headlines, complete pre, in-game, and post-game coverage, plus year-round recruiting coverage for only $1 a year. Yeah, that's right, $1, 365 days. Get some. Here's how to get started. Head over to warchant.com or on3.com. From the team's drop-down menu at the top of the screen or the upper left corner if you're on mobile, select teams, scroll down to Florida State, and then select Warchant. There, you'll see the limited offer for 1 year for $1. Tap or click, choose Florida State from the drop-down, annual or monthly, enter your billing info, and hit subscribe. That's it. $1 for a year of Warchant.com, the ultimate deal for the ultimate fan from the Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. Warchant.com.
Zaxby's Chicken Finger Plate comes with 12 dippable, dunkable, do-it-any-way-you-wantable sauces, and a plate of our hand-breaded fingers. Oh, and don't forget the napkins. Famous fried chicken, endless sauce abilities. Only at Zaxby's.
Welcome back. Warchant Game Day atop Hotel Indigo, brought to you by Zaxby's. It is great to be with you. This, the home opener. Florida State football begins yet another year. Exciting times. Don't forget to swing on by here at Hotel Indigo. We'll be with you till 4 o'clock. We'll be doing all of our pregame shows here throughout the home schedule. So this is where you're going to want to be. It's a great view, obviously, right behind us. I want to welcome in our friend D.C. Reeves, the new mayor of Pensacola. Hello, good sir. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm trying to get I had my girlfriend with me, and we said after the election, it was Tuesday night, I want to do something romantic. So I said, why don't we go to the other? Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was the top of both of our list.
It's so easy. So easy.
So it's nice to get away for a day.
So DC worked at warchant.com many moons ago, and he had great timing. He knew 2012, time to get out.
Yeah, exactly.
This place, you were like Heather Dinich. You realized they weren't going to do anything.
Yeah, we peaked 2012.
That was it.
Yeah, exactly.
So 2013, the national championship happens, and I remember thinking, we'll just never hear from D.C. Reeves again, man. He was a good writer, a good friend, but he's going back to Pensacola. What the hell's he going to do? Well, actually, with Alabama.
Right.
And then failed them, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the only 2 years in, the 15 that they didn't win the national championship were the 2 I was there.
Yeah.
The kick 6 game, I was on the field for that.
So out of sheer desperation and those 2 failures, you decided, I'll just run for mayor of Pensacola.
Yeah, exactly.
And open in about 15 businesses.
Exactly. But no, it's kind of funny. Yeah, sports writer turned craft beer owner turned mayor. But
at the end of the day, you're a Florida State alumnus and you're here supporting your team. Let's talk about that.
Exactly. And honestly, when you're a sports writer somewhere else, you can't go to games. Things have been busy starting a business, and I was just telling Gene, it was I've probably been to maybe 5 games in the last 5-6 years because it's just hard to get over here. So this was my celebratory excuse to get out of town and come check out the squad, and I'm excited about the prospects of this year.
I was going to say, when you're away from it and you're not covering it day to day, you know what I mean. We know all the ins and outs, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. When you're watching from afar and you're building a business, and then you had political aspirations, and you're also a father, you have all these things going on. What is your thought of where Florida State's at? I mean, that's the thing. I think of you now as so many people I know that I went to school with that, they go on with their lives. They're not paying attention as closely every day.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I was thinking about that walking up. Is I'm now an outsider, certainly, not following it as closely. But yeah, I mean, people ask me, and I'm shocked how many people in Pensacola still say, "Hey, are you the guy that works at Warchant?" I was like, "Man, that's been 10,
cool.
11 years." It's cool. Yeah. It says a lot about Warchant.
Resonates.
But the way I look at it is maybe make or break is strong, but I mean, obviously it's we have to see the progression, right? And it feels like this is the year. And, I think I feel very, as a sports writer, you're always pessimistic. I was joking. You expect the worst. I mean, I don't know. I feel good about this year. I feel like there's, there is a little pressure, I think, is, people are expecting some progress, and, that comes in different forms. 8-4 is one thing, 7-5 with a big upset, and and competing in
how
every
it
game
looks matters.
Exactly. There is that intangible value. Wins are wins. That's what matters at the end of the day. But how does this team look in addition to how many wins they get?
I'm kind of curious. Obviously, just given your role and your new role in general, but you're a business owner, as we just alluded to, and there are a ton of Noles in Pensacola.
A lot.
And, you talk to Florida State guys and gals all over all the time.
Right.
Like, what is the perception? I mean, obviously the program's been down, but Mike, I think, has, set the groundwork for something to be good again. And that's what the eagerly anticipated season is, right? Like, is this the sign? Are we going to see it now?
Right.
Is that what you get when you interact with folks, that is, optimism, cautious?
Yeah, that's probably a good way to say it. I think, people are like, is this it? Is this it? And again, people are expecting 11 wins. It's just a matter of like, hey, is it again, that 7-win, 8-win with a big upset, competing in games, not falling out of games, and early where we're just not competitive. That's kind of the feeling. I think that's the expectation, right now, again, just talking to folks in and around. And the other thing I talked to Pensacola folks about is, I'm already starting my advocacy for an FSU baseball series at the best minor league stadium.
I'm going there next. I was about to take a hard right turn from football. I know it's opening day. I know everybody's excited about this game, but you and I share this belief that there's no reason why Florida State baseball ought not play a series, say, against LSU or somebody else.
Ole Miss. Yeah,
Ole Miss,
right,
right there in Pensacola.
Yeah. Well, the city of Pensacola does own the stadium. It's
correct.
It wins minor league baseball stadium of the year every single year.
Can you make this happen? You're the mayor.
Exactly.
Stop wishing for things. Do things.
Do things. Exactly. Get Link up here. Is he up here? Yeah. So I will start. This is day one of my advocacy project.
The campaign begins.
Exactly.
You're welcome, everybody. We had the mayor on. It's going to happen. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, listen, enjoy the game. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Thanks for having me.
One of Florida State's own, everybody, the new mayor of Pensacola, DC Reeves. Florida State is proud of you. I'm proud of you. Good job, brother.
Hey, thanks, man.
Be good.
Love you guys.
Be
Thanks.
good. More.
Something big, something huge is taking over the world of chicken sandwiches. Zaxby's new signature sandwich with Zax sauce or new spicy Zax sauce. Because the chicken sandwich war ain't over yet. The new signature sandwich, it's taking over. And it's only at Zaxby's.
Warchant.com has been the definitive home of all things FSU sports for over 20 years and is now part of On3, the next generation network. Warchant.com has the most experienced, tenured, and largest staff on the Florida State sports beat and now features innovative resources, including an NIL database that projects player value and a truly aggregated composite recruiting ranking system that will set the bar in the industry. You can have access to all of this in addition to Wake Up Warchant, The Jeff Cameron Show, Seminole Headlines, complete pre, in-game, and post-game coverage, plus year-round recruiting coverage for only $1 a year. Yeah, that's right, $1, 365 days. Get some. Here's how to get started. Head over to warchant.com or on3.com. From the team's drop-down menu at the top of the screen or the upper left corner if you're on mobile, select teams, scroll down to Florida State, and then select Warchant. There, you'll see the limited offer for 1 year for $1. Tap or click, choose Florida State from the drop-down, annual or monthly, enter your billing info, and hit subscribe. That's it. $1 for a year of Warchant.com, the ultimate deal for the ultimate fan from the Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. Warchant.com.
Zaxby's Chicken Finger Plate comes with 12 dippable, dunkable, do-it-any-way-you-wantable sauces, and a plate of our hand-breaded fingers. Oh, and don't forget the napkins. Famous fried chicken, endless sauce abilities, only at Zaxby's.
And we're back.
Welcome back, Warchant GameDay atop Hotel Indigo, brought to you by our friends at Zaxby's. Pre-game, post-game, no game at all. Anytime is the right time for Zaxby's platters, just as long as you're hungry. Tallahassee Zaxby's, a proud Golden Chief booster for 17 years. Go Noles. Remember, you can order online or on the app as well. All right, let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, so Vishal comes through with a monster contribution to the program.
Vishal, thank you.
It was a pleasure to meet him last night. That's what he said in the comment. We met him at the corner pocket with his son, Sean.
Yeah.
Remember, Fridays of game weeks, home games, Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 5:30 to 6:30 for the Warchant Happy Hour. That's where we met last night. He's got a great young man on his hands, does Vishal. He drove up from the Orlando area. Thank you so much for your contribution, sir.
Really, really cool.
We met Vishal via a contribution like that last year in the pregame show. Going, who the hell is that?
I yelled it out. What's going on with this Vishal character? He seems like a really good guy.
Rob, thank you so much as well. Rob Rathbun. He always comes in. No comments. He just drops it.
Just kind.
20 bones. Thank you. And Augie Dog. Augie Dog as well. He's excited about the year.
Man, we're catching up. We're catching up. I appreciate everybody. Sincerely, thanks everybody. Really, really kind of you. And it helps us do what we do. It helps us really kind of move forward with some of our aspirations that we want to achieve as well with broadcast locations, things we can, all that good stuff.
It makes a huge difference. Yeah, we can't say thank you enough. And to those of you that are subscribed to warchant.com as well, thank you. Well over 9,000 subscribers already in the drive. The
are
number
we leading
one
the way
site.
now? Leading the way now? Yeah, absolutely.
Leading the way on On3. Give us a shot. It means a lot, and it's going to work for you. You're going to say, this is the best dollar I ever spent, especially these days. The best dollar you ever spent, go to warchant.com. You'll see the special up top in the green box. And
it's a buck.
The 700 plus that are watching right now, hit the like button underneath this video. Subscribe to Warchant TV. See, I memorized all that.
Well,
that stuff.
Man, it's that's a lot of people watching. Hey, thanks a lot, guys. We're not far now, man. And so about a little less than 40 minutes left in the show, but the game is not far off now. And I think, by the way, if you're listening locally, watching locally, maybe you got on your phone driving in, whatever it might be. As we look at the tailgate lots behind, what a view here at Hotel Indigo.
It is.
They're starting to fill up here now, which is great. But anybody can come here. If you're not staying at Hotel Indigo, it doesn't matter. You can come here, come up to the top floor. You'll see us broadcasting. Host a ton of Florida State fans right here. Everybody's excited about the broadcast. You can hear them in the backdrop. There we go. We even got the mayor of Pensacola.
We did. That's right.
So how about that?
There's a couple few dozen people here. There's full air conditioning area too. If you're in the tailgate lots right now, you say, I need a break. Where can I get a break where I'm not around 100 people within a 10-foot space? Come to Hotel Indigo. It's nice and spacious. They've got a buffet for you upstairs here, cash bar, everything you want. They got games on TVs up here too. It's a hidden gem, 7th floor of the Hotel Indigo.
Something to point out too, I think we're going to knock on wood here, get a little bit lucky with the weather as well. It's looking like we're going to be all right.
As somebody who's doing an in-game show and a post-game show, please.
Yeah, got to happen.
From your mouth to the football god's ears.
Let me hip you to a stat, Tom, because I think it's going to matter greatly, and we want to see a big leap forward in this number, well, at least in terms of the consistency that they play offense. 37.7 points per game as a head coach is Mike Norvell in his career. That is the 3rd highest nationally among coaches active from the years 2016 to 2022. We have not seen that electrifying offense as of yet. We know that, but that's what he's done in his career. 37.7 points per game, 3rd best of all the active coaches from 2016 to 2022. He had 3 separate games at Memphis where they dropped 70 on people. How big a step forward do we think this offense takes this year? Because to me, that's the biggest question. I think the defense is going to be pretty consistent. Certainly better to start the year than it was last season where they were absolute sieve. They got better as the season went on. I brought up the stat when we did the roundtable. Last 8 games, they were a top 30 defense in a lot of the metrics. So the first 4 count too, and those skewed the numbers and they weren't good overall. But those last 8 games, they were a top 30 defense. Now, the offense has to come along for the ride. We talk a lot about adding depth on the offensive line. We talk a lot about bringing in wide receivers with a greater catch radius, more athleticism, and greater depth at that position too. Jordan's the unquestionable quarterback. He's not looking over his shoulder at Mackenzie Milton. So how much of a step forward do we think we see this upcoming season offensively in terms of consistency?
Well, consistency, it's hard to be less consistent than they were last year, and that all stems from the offensive line, really. What it doesn't allow you to do, it doesn't allow you to win first down. So if you're consistently, and this is what they were consistent at, in 2nd and long, Kenny talked about this for the first 4 or 6 games of the season. He'd say, well, How many negative plays did we give up? Your favorite. How many MAs did we have? You know, and if you're constantly in 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 12, we were talking about, can we just get to 2nd and 10? That's how bad things were.
Well, that's when the offensive line was banged up and they didn't have guys to, replacement level players. And the next thing you knew, you were in real trouble.
Right. The drive's over that quickly.
Yeah.
The thing that I think we're going to see more consistently this year is tempo. Because I think
you can win first down.
It's not that you're always in 2nd and 4, but you may be in 2nd and 7, and that's good enough to get up to the line of scrimmage. And when you make somebody think faster than they want to think in this offense, that's how you get to those numbers that he's put up. That's how you average nearly 40 points a game, because we see it. Some of the basic plays, and this is nothing about camp specifically. Last year, look at the tape. There are some basic plays that when we get in a rhythm, you have to make a choice, and you almost have to guess as a defender.
So success rate is something you hear a lot of people kick around. It's quantifiable. There's a first down success rate, second down success rate, third. It's if you get the requisite yardage necessary to win the down.
Yeah.
Those numbers are described, and we won't get into the formula, but if you get 5 yards on first down, that's a successful play.
You just kicked ass.
Yeah. So 2nd and 5 allows you to call anything in your playbook, and it makes the defense play you honest. How often are you in 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5? Because it really does dictate terms to the defense from that point moving forward. Florida State found themselves on the losing end of first down so frequently last year that the series wasn't over because Jordan Travis could be a genie. He could make something happen almost out of nothing, but they were busted plays. A lot of the offense was predicated on Jordan making something out of nothing or Jordan making a guy miss because they were pigeonholed into what they could do. The defense knew exactly what was coming.
Yeah.
That's no way to live, man. That's no way to sustain drives. That's no way to find the kind of offensive success rate that we're speaking of. That's no way to put the points up at 37.7.
Yeah.
Like you have to find a way to win first down. Now, they're going to win first down today, guys. This is not what's in question. We're asking big questions about this offense and what we think they'll do. They are better equipped to give themselves a chance to sustain drives and to run tempo.
So I don't know what a successful drive would look like in terms of total yardage. I'm sure there's a formula for that too. If you get 3 first downs, if you clear 35 yards, 40 yards, like what determines a successful drive? And why do I bring that up? Special teams, specifically the punt return unit, is going to catch the football this year. That's one thing that I can say pretty confidently. They're going to.
We watched it every day. They actually did it in practice. I'm holding my breath. I mean, there's no reason they can't do it in a game. Micah Pittman can catch the ball. Right. They brought in another kid that can catch the ball. They've got a few guys.
So all these little things add up. If you're a little bit better on the offensive line, if it's not a teacup that you're throwing to at a wide receiver position, like with Johnny Wilson or with Malik McClain, if you can catch the football in the punt return game instead of letting it roll from your own 38 to your own 12. Little things like that. That's how you arrive at the extra 7 to 10 points you're looking for per game. And when you break it down that way, it feels a lot simpler to me because then you do realize that they're better across the board at each position on the offense. And if the special teams can help you out, I'm not even talking about returning it for 1 positive yard. I'm just talking about catching the ball. Kick return game is a different conversation. But if you have the ball at your own 38 instead of your own 12, the chances of you scoring points are astronomical. And that's if you're a bad offense. Now, what if you're an average or an above average offense this year? That's where it gets fun to talk about this group.
Well, and again, where you're talking about hyper-focusing on what numbers, it changes from success rate on first down to a stat called finishing drives.
Right.
Let's have that discussion.
Well, I mean, how many drives could we go?
A lot more fun to have.
What percentage of our drives last year would we go 40 yards and have no chance to succeed?
Right.
Because of where we started on the field.
Correct.
But all these things work together, and they're better in so many little areas that if they can prove it in the passing game, this is the whole key to the year for me.
Mm-hmm.
If you can prove it in the passing game, and you don't have to be between the hash marks or 3rd and 6, if you prove it on first down that you have to be played honest, the explosive runs will be more consistent. And I'm not just talking about the 80-yard Jayshon Corbins. I'm talking about 12 yards on first down, and now we're going in tempo. It's all about that first down. That's how you get drives going with tempo. I think they want to do it more. They just couldn't last year.
Really quickly, perhaps the game of the day, at least week 0 games are usually pretty one-sided. We've got a great one over in Ireland, Nebraska 28, Northwestern 24 as they start the 4th quarter. Real good football game. This game began Nebraska 14-3. Northwestern stormed back. You wonder about the Demons.
Sir.
They've had some tough ones.
Nebraska minus 11 looked pretty enticing this morning, and I didn't touch it. And
you may still regret that, but
still,
yeah.
I wouldn't want to sweat that out. Once I saw it, a 4-point game plus, Northwestern scored 24 points?
Yeah.
How?
It's a shootout in Ireland,
That's a
sir.
month
They're
of
just now
production for
starting in the fourth quarter, 28-24 Nebraska. Elsewhere, Western Kentucky leads Austin Peay 35-27. That game is in the fourth quarter as well. So a few games right now. Obviously, we kick off at 5 o'clock on the ACC network.
Also on the Warchant chat scoreboard, Z-Chan, Zach. I mean, thank you so much for your contribution.
I should answer Bob's question, I guess.
Bob asked you about the Big Daddy J, but Zach, $200.
Oh, come on, Zach. Thank you so much.
We really appreciate that. We're feeling the love today.
It's very, very kind of all of you, and we do appreciate it. I was going to pull this up here, Tom, just a little fun, because people have asked in the chat. Now, this is not the place. This is not normally where I do this. So I'll maybe whisper it here that the folks on TV
Bob asked, what are Big Daddy J's plays?
Well, I got a lot of them, and I'm not going to go through all of them because it's not a gambling show out here today. But I will tell you, I did have a 3-pick parlay we can have fun with here together, guys. I took FSU minus 41.5, North Carolina minus 45, unfortunately, against Florida A&M. I hope the Rattlers win that game, but they're not going to. Utah State minus 24, parlayed that $25 to win $175. So it's just a little fun. It's just a little floater out there.
Potato chips. 175 potato chips.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Sir, we're in the state of Florida.
Oh, sorry about that. Right, yes. Potato chips indeed. But that was one little fun parlay. And, hey, guys, really what this is about is welcome back football, welcome back gambling, welcome back all of the things on the periphery and right there, the meat and the potatoes, the sandwich, the whole deal.
We got about 25 minutes left in the show. Does it feel real to you yet? Like that it's game day?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
this
all
atmosphere
of the people helped.
Doing this helped without question. It does feel real to me today. And I got up this morning not knowing what to expect about the crowds. I didn't know about the crowds here at Hotel Indigo. I didn't know what it was going to look like over here. That's starting to fill up again. I'm starting to feel better and better about that.
I can see that on the camera.
I saw that the student allotment was sold out. I was happy about that. I mean, it's tough because if you think about the schedule, and we've done a lot of preseason prognostication. We've done a lot of W's and L's and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And every time you do it, you look through the games, you don't think about attendance. You don't think about things like that. You just think about, are you going to win that game? By how much? Or are you going to lose that game? What do you have to overcome? All of that. Well, I mean, from the get-go, when you found out Florida State was playing week 0, on the one hand, you love seeing Florida State football sooner rather than later, so that was fine. On the other hand, you figured that's a tough sell, even though it is the home opener, because A, it's an outmatched opponent in Duquesne, and B, we're all headed to New Orleans next week for the game against LSU, and a lot of people are putting their money in that. It's going to be
people are fired up
about that. I'm fired up about it too. So folks have kind of probably saved for a long time to be able to do that and meet their friends there and all those things. So I wondered what we'd get, but this atmosphere here has been awesome. The atmosphere at the stadium hopefully will be a little bit better than I would have given it credit for when I first saw that this game was the first on the schedule and at the time that it was.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you another thing I was surprised by in terms of crowds yesterday at the happy hour show. I mean, the people were ready. It wasn't just the rain. Yeah, I know. There's people here. Who, if you're here both days, go ahead and give a round of applause. But it was lively. People are starving for us to matter again.
Oh, man. You know who else is? ESPN. And I know people don't believe that they are because that's an investment. They may not invest in the ACC the way that they've invested clearly in the SEC, but it's still an asset and they need it to do well. And listen, the ACC only does well in football, frankly. Typically, we know this in terms of moving the needle nationally. If Florida State's great, if Miami is ever any good, let's hope not, but if they are, the bottom line is that is how the needle gets moved for the ACC. Yeah. Listen, if a Pitt wins the conference, that ain't good for the conference. No. If Wake Forest is in the championship game, that's not good for the conference. You need the name and the recognition and the cachet of a Florida State. And they're still getting around that. Yeah, I'm a homer. Yeah, I'm a Nole. But Florida State, we see it through the sales of merchandise. We see it with the TV ratings. We know how important they are to college football's larger landscape. I'm sure that all of the networks, all of the people who make a lot of money on college football would like to see Florida State matter again.
Yeah, well, I mean, last year's game with Notre Dame, I understand it's the only game in town, but it's still one of the most watched games all season long.
It was the top 5 watch game on the season.
Right, and it's going to be another monster next weekend with LSU.
It will be huge.
Do monster ratings. So, if you can match the ratings with a success, then you got something. And it just sounds so simple, but here we are. We haven't won our season opener since 2016.
Yeah, I opened the show with it. It was an upsetting thing to have to do, but I talked about that 2016 matchup against Texas State, 59-16. Florida State won that game.
That was the home opener in 15.
The home opener, 15. Sorry. Yeah, so from there, you just go on down the list of bad games. Alabama, 24-7. Virginia Tech, 24-3. Boise State, we choke away, 36-31. 16-13 Georgia Tech, which is still unimaginable with the long
That Boise game
delay.
was especially.
Ooh, that was a
Man.
tough one. I cooked in that game. I was sitting in the stands with my
Shake
dad.
that one off.
Yeah, 41-38 against Notre Dame last year in overtime. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a minute since we've won our first game.
Yeah. I like when they schedule teams like this. I understand what you said before. Duquesne. Nope. We are beggars, sir, so we cannot be choosers
Currently,
in this moment.
Man, I think you could have probably filled that slot with Troy or somebody like that. But yeah, I hear you. I mean, that's how far we've fallen. But that's it. It's the last time we have to do this.
Well, I still look. Would you rather us open our first game in New Orleans against LSU, or would you want to tune up of some kind?
Actually,
like
to
this?
that point, listen really quickly. I all seriousness, all jokes aside, I've said all week long, just for people who have asked, what are you going to learn about this team in this game? And my thought was, you're not going to learn a lot about this team in this game physically. You're going to learn to correct communication mistakes. First games can be chaotic for a coaching staff. Communications really comes into play there. You haven't done it yet. Now, Mike's got a plan for how he wants his guys to communicate in game. Who can talk when, why? That has to be orderly. You cannot have that headset on and hear four voices at a time while you're trying to think and while you're trying to get something done. So in a game, your first game, this is where you iron out all those problems. If there's a problem with the system, if there's a problem where a coach his segment group isn't ready for whatever.
The offensive staff, right? Yeah. I mean, you had Kenny as the coordinator in the booth last year, and Alex Atkins is going to be on the field because he needs to be able to read what's going on with his offensive linemen. So that communication chain changes fundamentally from year over year.
Communication chain is a lot about what can be corrected from week 1 to week 2 or week 0 to week 1, however you want to phrase it. I think that is the key thing that they'll get done, and they'll get to play a lot of people. And I know for fans, we say, listen, win the game, take care of business. I'm excited to see the starters. But given how hard these guys work every day in practice, I have to get excited for some of the walk-ons that'll play today if Florida State takes care of business, the guys that are going to play in very few games, third stringers, guys who are a long ways away from being able to play, but run these plays in practice. They get an opportunity a game like this if your starters do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
They all get that chance, and we all smile and are happy for those guys.
Somebody asked earlier in the chat, do you think today's game is such that in the fourth quarter, perhaps, A.J. Duffy gets on the field?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. Yeah, I absolutely do. In fact, that's something I'm excited about.
Yeah, me too.
I would like to see him play. I know it's Duquesne, and I know that if he gets in, the game will have already been decided, and it's lopsided. There won't be any real pressure there. But I can assure you that the first time he trots out there with an opportunity to play in the garnet and gold at home in front of fans, he's going to be nervous.
Yep.
Get that under your belt. Get out there and do a little something and have some fun with it. He's got the opportunity probably today if the Noles are up by 40 in the middle of the third quarter or early in the fourth, yeah, maybe.
That could be an interesting conversation because it's not in the same link, but we have something ready for you on Warchant TV today. It's the Warchant Watch Along beginning at 5 o'clock. If you get tired of the ACC network broadcast and you'd rather listen to somebody else, for the first half, our own Aslan Hajavandi will be running the show, and then the insights will come from our own Dominic Robinson, who will be there from kickoff until the final kneel down or the final play of the game. I'll be joining in for the second half. So since I have the second half job today, I wonder if we're going to be talking about A.J. Duffy. And we're talking – because I would like to get Dominic's thoughts from afar on what he's seeing in terms of processing. They've thrown a ton at A.J.
They threw the entire playbook.
Sometimes he's sinking and sometimes he's swimming. But when you simplify things for a game, I want to see how he handles that because he's got natural ability and he's got a good arm.
It'll be fun to listen to Dominic Robinson talk about a lot of things. He's not lacking for an opinion. He also has great knowledge. So I think he'll bring that. But if you start to see, as the aforementioned walk-ons and third-string guys and people like that get into a game, it will be fascinating to see what he thinks that they're learning, what they can achieve here, what the goal is with a lot of those guys, what's happening, what's moving too fast, what's working, all that stuff. Because I think coaches have a different idea of what they want to see when they put guys out there who've gotten limited reps in terms of running the offense in the case of A.J. Duffy.
Well, and here's hoping that this broadcast, be it on ACC Network, is not presented like the spring game, because you could see where it would be a hybrid format for a game like Duquesne if it gets a little bit sloppy in terms of the scoreboard. They cut down to the sidelines for interviews every 10 minutes. Let's all hold hands, those of us who can't be lucky enough to go into Doak today and when we're watching on television, that we actually see the game from start to finish, because it's better to be able to break down the game if you can see it instead of sideline interview.
I can't fathom that would be the case. It's an actual game. They're going to, I know it's the ACC network, but they too are efforting, my friend, to get better, just as Florida State is. We are Warchant Game Day, broadcasting live atop Hotel Indigo, brought to you by our friends at Zaxby's. We'll come back and got to wrap it up here in a moment. Thanks for watching.
Something big, something huge is taking over the world of chicken sandwiches. Zaxby's new signature sandwich with Zax sauce or new spicy Zax sauce. Because the chicken sandwich war ain't over yet. The new signature sandwich, it's taking over. And it's only at Zaxby's.
Warchant.com has been the definitive home of all things FSU sports for over 20 years and is now part of On3, the next generation network. Warchant.com has the most experienced, tenured, and largest staff on the Florida State sports beat and now features innovative resources, including an NIL database that projects player value and a truly aggregated composite recruiting ranking system that will set the bar in the industry. You can have access to all of this in addition to Wake Up Warchant, The Jeff Cameron Show, Seminole Headlines, complete pre, in-game, and post-game coverage, plus year-round recruiting coverage for only $1 a year. Yeah, that's right, $1, 365 days. Get some. Here's how to get started. Head over to warchant.com or on3.com. From the team's drop-down menu at the top of the screen or the upper left corner if you're on mobile, select teams, scroll down to Florida State, and then select Warchant. There, you'll see the limited offer for 1 year for $1. Tap or click, choose Florida State from the drop-down, annual or monthly, enter your billing info, and hit subscribe. That's it. $1 for a year of Warchant.com, the ultimate deal for the ultimate fan from the Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. Warchant.com.
Zaxby's Chicken Finger Plate comes with 12 dippable, dunkable, do it any way you wantable sauces, and a plate of our hand-breaded fingers. Oh, and don't forget the napkins. Famous fried chicken, endless sauce abilities, only at Zaxby's.
Warchant Game Day continues as it's brought to you by our friends at Zaxby's. We are on top of Hotel Indigo. You could be with us anytime you want for the home games. We'll be here all season long. Today's game predictions are brought to you. Well, you want to save that one? You want to get into?
We can. I can get into a contribution that we have.
Well, okay, let's do that.
Our friend Scott. It's more of a. He's saying that he's not sold on Adam Fuller just yet. So what he wants to see today and what he can learn today is guys flying around, because it tells him that they're not thinking anymore. If they're flying around on the field, then pre-snap communication and trust in the system is not an issue anymore.
Completely fair. And we did not go through for, again, the people coming into town, the entirety of that defense.
Yeah.
I'll rapid fire this thing because I think Scott's concerns are valid.
Even still, even after what they did for the final 8 games?
No. What I mean by that is you've got to show me now that everybody is on the same page. You already showed me for a stretch that you are capable of rolling a defense out there that was uncoordinated and confused. Now, I'll grant you, you righted the ship, but it was only after 4 embarrassing losses in which teams did anything they wanted. They're going to adjust to what Florida State did in the last 8 games.
Yes.
Offenses are going to see what was successful for Florida State, and they are going to attack some of the other elements of this defense. How quickly does Adam Fuller adjust in game when those adjustments occur, and how quickly are his players able to implement what he's teaching them? That is a fair concern.
It is. Well, the other thing, too, is when you have a front 4 like you did last year, you don't have to bring anybody else.
That's
you don't
right.
have to get creative. You don't have to get exotic. I think Adam Fuller likes to bring pressures. It's just he strikes me as that type. He mentioned it after the second scrimmage. So it's not anything, again, that's secrets behind the scenes. How often do you have to do that? And how good are you at it? That's the other thing. Like, players matter in a great way. There are certain players who have a knack for jumping snap counts from the second level. You know, Derwin James was phenomenal at that. Some players have all the speed in the world and they can never get home, and it'll drive you nuts. You see it all the time at the NFL level. Like, a guy will have a free shot on the quarterback and he'll never get home. So what the hell good is it? It doesn't matter that, you deceive somebody. They got to finish the play. But, you didn't have to worry about that last year.
Right.
Because Jermaine Johnson and Keir have it on lockdown. So when you don't have that luxury, and we're betting that they won't as consistently have the luxury of a pass rush that can get home with just 4, what do you do to account for that? And how successful are you? Because if you're bad at blitzing, it's ugly because you give up wide open plays.
It's my greatest concern. And I don't know that there is somebody else that's uniquely gifted at getting to the passer other than Tatum Bethune.
Outside of the front 4.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Who is it that you believe is going to be able to make those plays? I don't know who that is. I don't know what the exotics are going to look like.
In theory, Amari Gaynor is, but, it's been several years.
I've watched him play a lot of football, and we're still waiting on it. So, that's one of those things that it's tough to know. By the way, quick update. Northwestern leads Nebraska 31-28.
Sir. The fact that I did not hit send. Don't press send.
11:30 to play in that game in Ireland. Yeah, it's unbelievable. All right, so McClendon and Verse, we feel pretty good about going into the season. Fabian Levitt, Robert Cooper, really, really good about going into this season. We like Malcolm Raig. We like Jared Jackson. We love Joshua Farmer. He's really come on.
Yeah, great camp.
Dennis Briggs, who I think will be the most consistent player on the defense, is just a hoss. You can move him inside, have him outside. Dennis Briggs, good player. Who steps up in that Fox role outside of him? Leonard Warner's been here 37 years. He might be able to do that. Kalen DeLoach and DJ Lundy to go along with Tatum Bethune are your linebackers. Tatum Bethune, really the star that came over from UCF and a guy that I think, frankly, seriously upgrades this group. I think from there, you look at Kevin Noles, you look at Duke Cooper, who actually did not have a great camp, guys.
Yeah, that's something to watch.
Yeah,
but he might be a gamer.
Yeah, he did not have a great camp. Now, he really came on at the end of last year, so I trust him, but didn't have a great camp. Zariah Thomas was the talk of camp because as a freshman, he really came in here and looked to be uber talented. There's no getting around this. He's long, he's fast, he's physical, he's smart, he's fluid. He's a lot of things that you want to see in a corner. Yeah. He should have a chance to play quite a bit today, I would say. Sam McCall as well. Akeem Dent and Jamie Robinson are two guys we feel very, very good about. And finally, the other corner is Renardo Green. And Renardo's a guy that I think a lot of people are like, 2 fingers. I get why, but he had a good camp. He played pretty well.
No, the strength of the defense is up the middle at all levels. And when's the last time you could say that about a Florida State defense, that you feel good about interior defensive line, linebackers, and safeties? 13? Yeah. I don't even know that 2014 had great linebacker play, so it might have been the championship
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
It's been frustrating, hasn't it?
That's a nice thing to be able to lean on. What I want to see is, can you make teams one-dimensional? Can you stop the run? And where are they going to test the run? The perimeter. They're not going to test that straight away.
No, I wouldn't think. We got problems if teams are successful running up the middle, but yeah.
So it's about discipline on the edges. It's about keeping your leverage. You don't have to worry about Dennis Briggs with that, I don't believe. He has such knowledge of every position on the defensive line that he's not going to get out-thought. He has the football IQ. But the question is, with a McClendon or a Jared Verse, how do they hold up against the run? I think they'll be dynamic enough in third and obvious, those two guys, to get to the quarterback. But if it's third and medium, what do they do? And those are the kinds of things that the speed of this game, I think, will affect one way or the other. Not today, specifically talking about this season ahead for Jared Verse and McClendon in first extended action. We'll see how they react to it.
Well, I think the reason, too, for Florida State to be excited about what they have defensively is, while they're not nearly as dynamic, Jermaine Johnson is a first-round draft pick. You can't replace the production of he and Keir Thomas. Those numbers are staggering. Tom and I have talked about them a lot before. Like, you look at all of the things that they succeeded in doing, tackles for loss and havoc and all those numbers that you look at. But I do think they're more consistent across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that at each level, you feel pretty good about what's that segment group is.
Yeah, I will tell you.
Pretty good.
Because of what you just talked about with one player who didn't have a great camp, I am looking at corner again a little bit. And I don't know that I can learn anything today about that. But certainly LSU with their receivers next week will tell you if your corners took a step back. You'll find that one out early.
That game, those talking points, I mean, listen, we are in the midst of being, I think, enthralled by a lopsided victory and an opening day win finally and all that, right? Yeah. Next week's a different animal. The concerns are real about
both teams, though. That's the good thing.
Yeah, but from a talent standpoint, you brought a receiver. I'm telling you, man, that's going to be something. By the way, we want to thank our friends at Garnet and Gold. They helped out again today. Tom is wearing Garnet and Gold gear. I'm wearing Garnet and Gold gear. I'm actually going to go get some more Garnet and Gold gear later this week, on Monday, in fact. I'm going to be swinging by there. So for the best game day apparel in Tallahassee and online, support Garnet and Gold for all your FSU needs. Garnet and Gold is locally owned and operated. Their owners are FSU grads as well. Noles support Noles when they shop at Garnet and Gold. Time for some predictions, Tom. Let's get to it. Today's game predictions are brought to you by ABC Fine Wine and Spirits. I like ABC. Find an ABC Fine Wine and Spirits throughout the state of Florida and become an Access Rewards member today. I'm an Access Rewards member.
You are?
I am.
Are you close to getting to the vault?
I hope.
You're aware of the vault,
lately.
right?
I'm aware of the vault. Yeah,
so the vault has all of the rare bourbons and scotches, and for you, maybe tequila?
Tequila and scotch. Tequila and scotch are my things. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm close to the vault soon enough.
Yeah, chances are if you live in this state, you know where your nearest ABC is. Go hit them up.
Yeah, let's go ABC. Thank you. Appreciate you. All right, Tom, let's go here. We've got a good 10 minutes or a little less than that left in the show. We can talk about what the predictions are. I said all week long I'm not going to deviate. I think Florida State wins this game by whatever the score they want to win the game by. It's people conflate a game like this to the one that they saw against Jacksonville State, and I don't think they should. Jacksonville State had a lot of Division I transfers, some Power 5 transfers on that team. They weren't good. I'm not trying to sell you that Jacksonville State was good, but merely from a talent standpoint, they were a lot more talented than Duquesne. Duquesne is one of these small schools. If you played high school football and then let's say you were not as physically freakish as the guys that play for Florida State or Miami or Georgia or whatever, obviously there's a rung of the ladder that all of us fit. If you love the game, you play the game hard, you do the best you can. Maybe you can't play at Alabama or Florida State, but maybe you can play at, say, Western Kentucky or East Tennessee State. And then there's a group below that where maybe you can't get to there, so maybe you can play, say, at Lee's McRae or Lenore Ryan or schools like that. Perhaps your Old Dominion, something like that. And then there's another rung below that, Tom. And then there's another rung, and that's Duquesne.
Yeah.
Sacred Heart.
Look.
I mean, come on. That's where we're at. And I'm not doing that to disparage them.
No.
I'm saying the difference between the talent is massive. So they can name their score by.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to excuse away the Jacksonville State game. Nobody ever could. So when I say this, I'm not trying to. But understand that after that game last year, that unforgivable loss, they did blow out UMass.
Yeah.
Right. And this team that they're playing today is in the ballpark of UMass, not Jacksonville State. So today,
UMass beat Duquesne 3 years ago decisively, 60-something to 15.
Yes. There it is. Enough said. I think so. I'll do a positive prediction and a negative prediction. I think negatively, you might walk away from today feeling a little shaky about the kicking game. Especially if we have to line up for one and settle for a 40-yarder.
Yeah, let's see how they do, right? Let's see how they do.
Fitzgerald has a leg. It's a cannon for a leg, too, if he trusts it. I mean, he can hit from 55 plus, but it's about the consistency. So that's one thing I'm concerned about today. The thing I think that you're going to enjoy when they commit to it is the run. I just wonder today if they're going to work on the pass a little bit extra because they know that needs to be ready to go for next week at LSU. But if they commit to the run for a drive start to finish, you're going to enjoy that. So instead of scores, I'll just predict the facets of the game that you might be concerned about and the things you're going to like.
And falling back on my point, TCU last year, there ended up being a running clock for that game. It was 45-3. TCU, Sacred Heart beat Duquesne 34-27. Duquesne did just get by Bryant with a late touchdown. So I think you got to know where I'm going here.
And you keep going there.
Yeah,
yes, I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
I'm just letting you know, man.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm trying to do behind the curtain. So this guy keeps changing out here every 10 minutes. So
you're
I'm
trying to change.
We've been silhouettes. We've been good.
What we are doing now
is a shaky sky out there, folks. That's all I'm saying. It's a mixed bag. It is Tallahassee on an August afternoon.
And on that note, we'll be signing off is what we'll be doing here. It'll be time to say goodbye. Now, I want to once again let everybody know the roster. There it is. Okay, so for all of the home pregame shows this year, we'll be right here at Hotel Indigo, sponsored by Zaxby's. It is Warchant GameDay.
They put on a heck of a thing here, too.
Yeah, Hotel Indigo is awesome. And they've been great to us. And I've talked to a lot of people that are staying here this week, and they love this place, so that's exciting. You can be here as well. Make sure you get your reservations going and come on by for the next home game. We'll be up here broadcasting, doing the pregame show. Also, all season long, in-game, we have our lead analyst and Dominic Robinson, former player. Of course, you guys remember Dominic Robinson. He will share his opinions about what's going right, what's going wrong, and evaluate the play and the players as well as the concepts. So he's going to do a great job. You'll be working with him on that. So will Aslan, and I look forward to hearing that show. You'll hear it today, in fact, once they kick off at 5 o'clock. And then the post-game show, which you and Gene have been doing now for some time. That is coming up.
Year 4, yeah.
Yeah, that's coming up right after the game ends, the post-game show where you have an opportunity to weigh in with your thoughts on how Florida State did what they did or didn't do. And certainly they'll take your calls and your questions and all that good stuff. So looking forward to that. And that's for all of the games this year. So you're pretty well set. And, of course, next week we'll be in New Orleans with coverage. Looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, for those that are watching the pregame show broadcast right now, I'll give you a couple of minutes as we sign off. I'm going to post the link for the watch-along and the postgame show. Just a little note, the Warchant watch-along and postgame show are at the same link. You don't have to move. So we just transitioned from one to the other after a short break. The link is now in the chat if you're on YouTube. Bookmark it, and you'll be able to open that sucker in about an hour and 5 minutes. We'll be waiting for you.
Thanks to everybody who came out, all the folks that are here right now. Thanks to Hotel Indigo. Thanks to Zaxby's. Thanks to Garnet and Gold. Thanks to Barano Heating and Air Conditioning. All of our chat contributors. My goodness gracious. All the people who watched at home. All the people who had comments for us. We appreciate all of it.
And one special note of thanks to our own Aslan, who put together the intro video today. That was not easy to do, and he put it together last night for us. So we really appreciate the hard work. And, buddy, you take the reins for the next 2 quarters.
Well, I'll tell you this. Good times, and it's good to be back watching football again, everybody. Go Noles. For Tom Lang, I'm Jeff Cameron. Be good, everybody. Go Noles. We'll be here all year. Peace.